Nickelodeon is now a household name for cartoons and TV shows for kids and teens, and many of us who grew up watching this will have very fond memories of the network. iCarly, SpongeBob, Drake and Josh, it was host to some of the greatest TV shows we witnessed as kids. But underneath the shining exterior of this work of art was a canvas being painted with some truly gruesome colors. And these colors wouldn't come to light until 2 decades later with the release of a documentary by the name of Quiet on the Set. Today, Nickelodeon, or at least the people who seemingly made it great behind the scenes, are looked at with disdain.
Over the past 2 nights, it was very difficult, me facing my past behaviors, some of which are embarrassing and that I regret, and I definitely owe some people a pretty strong apology.
So, how did we get here? Well, in order to understand that, we have to go back to the very start. Nickelodeon actually made history as the first ever cable channel for kids when it launched in 1979, owned by Warner-Amex Satellite Entertainment. In 1986, Nickelodeon was sold to Viacom, along with MTV and VH1, and it's still under Viacom's wing today. Now, most of Nickelodeon's shows are available on a bunch of networks owned by the company, including Paramount+. Paramount+ has pretty much all of Nickelodeon's content, so fans, old and new, can dive back into their favorite shows. But even the biggest fans of Nickelodeon might not know the true story behind the network's name. It's not just a cool, made-up word for a TV channel. The term Nickelodeon actually comes from the early 1900s and referred to small theaters where people could watch short films. The name comes from nickel, because it cost 5 cents to watch a show, and odeon, a Greek word meaning a covered theater. These places weren't exactly luxurious, they had wooden seats and bad ventilation, but they were popular. As cities grew and people wanted to see longer movies, the little Nickelodeon theaters were replaced by bigger, fancier movie theaters, though the new ones charged double the price. The name Nickelodeon fits the network's mission perfectly, as it still entertains kids, teens, and even adults with its mix of shows, which can be seen as modern-day short films, just in much more comfortable settings. Nickelodeon actually started out in 1977 under the name Pinwheel Network, airing a show called Pinwheel every day from 7 a.m. to 9 p.m. By 1979, it rebranded as Nickelodeon, and its first logo featured a man looking through a kinetoscope, an old machine used to watch films. According to designer Joseph Iozzi, Nickelodeon was a natural fit for the channel because it was a turn-of-the-century device for dispensing entertainment, and the name just sounded nice and catchy. Over the years, Nickelodeon's logo has changed, with the famous orange splat arriving in 1984, but the essence of the network has remained the same. In its 4 decades, Nickelodeon has become known for its wide range of content for kids ages 2 to 17, adding new sister channels and special programming blocks to keep up with its audience. Nickelodeon has always been known for creating special content for kids, and it started expanding that in 1988 with the launch of Nick Jr., a weekday morning block just for preschoolers. This is where beloved shows like Eureka's Castle, Gullah Gullah Island, and Blue's Clues found their home.
Hey, it's birthday land. Do you want a skidoo? Yeah.
But perhaps Nickelodeon is best remembered for its iconic Nicktoons, a collection of original animated series that began in 1991 with classics like Doug, Ren and Stimpy, and Rugrats. As the years went on, Nickelodeon kept growing and branching out. They created channels like Teen Nick, which was aimed at teenagers and young adults, featuring shows like Drake and Josh and Zoe 101. Then there was Nick Rewind, for fans who wanted a dose of nostalgia, showing classics from the 80s, 90s, and early 2000s. Nickelodeon also dabbled in music with Nick Music, showcasing music videos and content from young pop artists. And although TV Land doesn't carry the Nickelodeon name, it's still part of the family, offering classic shows like Bonanza and The Golden Girls along with original hits like Younger. In recent years, streaming has helped keep some of that classic Nickelodeon vibe alive. Paramount Plus has been the go-to spot for revivals like the new iCarly series, reunion movies like Zoe 102, and sequels such as Good Burger 2. A big chunk of Nickelodeon's success, especially in live-action shows, can be traced back to Dan Schneider. He created a powerhouse lineup of hit shows starting with All That, a kids' variety show. Schneider's creative touch led to some of Nickelodeon's most popular live-action series, like Kenan and Kel, The Amanda Show, Drake and Josh, iCarly, Victorious, and Henry Danger.
Henry Danger!
Wow! Wow! Oh man!
And let me tell you, it came at great cost. If you've heard of Quiet on the Set, you'll know what I'm talking about, but before we get to that, we have to understand just who Dan Schneider was and what exactly gave him the impunity to do the horrible things that he did. Dan Schneider's touch. It was the biggest night in children's entertainment, and Nickelodeon's top stars from different generations gathered to celebrate the man who had shaped their careers, Dan Schneider. As Victoria Justice, star of Victorious, said, "You not only changed all of our lives, you changed kids' TV." Schneider was about to accept Nickelodeon's first ever Lifetime Achievement Award. It was 2014, and Schneider was at the height of his career, surrounded by young stars as he took the stage at the Kids' Choice Awards. For 2 decades, he had been a powerhouse writer and showrunner at Nickelodeon, delivering hit after hit, from All That and The Amanda Show to Drake and Josh, Zoe 101, Victorious, and the iconic iCarly. He helped define Nickelodeon's golden age of comedy for kids and teens. But just 4 years later, in 2018, Schneider and Nickelodeon issued a joint statement announcing their separation. Almost overnight, the man once dubbed the Norman Lear of children's television by the New York Times was out. With $7 million still owed on his contract, Schneider stepped out of the public eye, his once busy Twitter account falling silent. Though the statement hinted at other opportunities and projects, there were no signs of new shows or upcoming work from the man who had shaped comedy for millennials and Gen Z. In 2021, when Nickelodeon released the reboot of iCarly on Paramount Plus, it did so without Schneider. His absence reignited the mystery of why someone so influential would disappear from the industry at the peak of his career. Now, interviews with former co-workers, friends, and TV executives shed more light on his departure. While Schneider was undeniably talented, with a sharp ear for teen and tween humor, he could also be difficult to work with.
Better on that time, but still, keep the attitude a little more where we were as you turned to him for the, you brighten it up a little bit. Okay, well, I still thought it was great, and then stop, look more.
Stop laughing at the director. Show some respect, Jeanette. Respect. No smiling. All right. Take $100 off her check. Why are you people all yellow? Why do you look like Simpsons characters?
Why do we come out yellow? I play this actor.
Don't stare at me like that, you're scaring me.
Sorry.
The fans still don't know who you are.
They will.
Take a look at her, and then you've seen that face before. Here we go, all right?
Okay.
All right.
Here we go. All right.
But no, it's just the oh man, but it's
Yeah,
that
yeah.
attitude.
Oh, yeah. I was going to say, oh, man, here we go. All right.
I'll do that.
Okay.
That'd be bad.
What's with the boots? Why is Carly
I
always
don't know.
wearing
I'm always
boots?
wearing these boots this season.
So she can be in combat at any moment.
I want to wear boots.
What?
I'm becoming shorter and shorter by the week.
You know what? I think everybody's getting tired of your attitude.
Right?
I'll buy you some legs.
Yeah? Yeah. Okay.
Before the separation, Viacom-CBS, Nickelodeon's parent company, launched an investigation into Schneider. While many praised his attention to detail and work ethic, others viewed him as verbally abusive. In his first major interview since leaving Nickelodeon, Schneider declined to comment on the investigation, but defended his leadership style. He insisted he did not leave on bad terms, instead calling his departure a natural conclusion after an exhausting period in which he delivered up to 50 episodes a year. "I took a break to take care of a lot of stuff that I'd let go by the wayside for decades," Schneider said, adding that he had lost over 100 pounds during his time off. "Whatever I do next, I want it to outdo what I've done in the past." Despite Schneider's denials, rumors about his behavior had circulated online for years. Social media users posted compilations of scenes from his shows, suggesting inappropriate moments involving child actors, particularly scenes featuring bare feet. Some interpreted these as signs of a fetish or instances of sexual innuendo, masked as humor. Schneider dismissed these accusations, calling them ridiculous. He expressed frustration with how rumors spread on social media, insisting that any focus on feet in his shows was meant to be goofy, never sexual. According to him, the humor was totally innocent and meant for kids. Nevertheless, by 2018, the internet rumors had caught the attention of Schneider's bosses, coinciding with the rise of the #MeToo movement. Viacom CBS interviewed dozens of employees, and though the investigation found no evidence of sexual misconduct, it did reveal that Schneider could be verbally abusive. Some of Schneider's former colleagues described him as a controlling and difficult boss, prone to outbursts and angry emails. Others recalled feeling uncomfortable when he asked an employee from the costume department for neck and shoulder massages or texted child actors outside of work hours. Some of Schneider's former colleagues described him as a controlling and difficult boss. Schneider denied acting inappropriately, stating, "I couldn't, and I wouldn't have the long-term friendships and continued loyalty from so many reputable people if I'd mistreated my actors of any age, especially minors." He did say, though, that some might have perceived him as difficult, but attributed this to his high standards. "I'm very willing to defend creative things that I believe in," he said. To really grasp the gap left when Dan Schneider parted ways with Nickelodeon, you have to look at how high he helped elevate the network. As some of his former colleagues put it, Schneider and Nickelodeon practically grew up together. They built a powerhouse for kids and family programming from the ground up, transforming it into the highest-rated network on basic cable. Schneider's work for Nickelodeon was known for its fast-paced, joke-heavy sitcoms. These shows blended storylines about friendship and teenage antics with goofy humor that was just outrageous enough to crack up tweens.
But I bet he hates Aunt Catherine just as much as I do. I wonder if Drake hates Aunt Catherine as much as I do. Do you? Totally.
From the dancing lobsters in the Amanda Show to the spaghetti tacos of iCarly, his shows helped shape Nickelodeon into a world where it seemed like kids could turn their wildest ideas into reality. "There's a certain musical cadence to sitcom acting," said Yvette Nicole Brown, who played Helen on Drake and Josh. "Dan just hears the music." Comedy had always been Schneider's go-to tool. When it comes to his early life, it turns out he grew up in Memphis in a warm, funny family. By age 7, Schneider was the most overweight kid in his class, and he saw humor as his ticket to acceptance. "I wouldn't be thought of as the fattest kid in the class if they thought I was the funniest kid in the class," he recalled. Schneider wasn't much into academics. Instead, his favorite teachers were TV writers like Susan Harris, Larry Gelbart, and Carl Reiner. He studied their work closely. After a short stint in Boston and a job fixing Apple computers, he managed to snag a part in a movie, making the grade, which held its casting in Memphis. Later, he landed a role in the 1980 sitcom Head of the Class, where he met Brian Robbins, now the president of Kids and Family Entertainment at Viacom CBS. By the late 80s, Schneider was co-hosting the second-ever Kids' Choice Awards alongside Robbins, and he struck up a friendship with Albie Hecht, who was involved in comedy development at Nickelodeon at the time. Schneider and Robbins would go on to collaborate in the 1990s on All That, an SNL-style sketch comedy show for kids that Robbins co-created. All That ran for 10 seasons, launching the careers of stars like Kenan Thompson, Kel Mitchell, Amanda Bynes, and Jamie Lynn Spears.
Jamie Spears. She has a full beard.
That is not true. I do not have a beard.
Prove it, Beardo.
Tracy Katzguy, a former Nickelodeon executive who worked with Schneider during the peak of iCarly's popularity, said Schneider had a rare gift for writing for kids. He refused to rely on wordplay, knowing that some of his young audience wouldn't get it. Instead, he made sure the humor resonated with kids. Schneider even asked his young actors directly if they thought a joke was funny. The network knew, no matter how much they wanted the show to be a hit, they knew I wanted it more, Schneider said. Many of Dan Schneider's supporters describe him as having the energy of a big kid. They say he saw his young viewers as equals and had a unique ability to tap into what they found funny. A self-professed fan of Star Trek, he also had a love for timepieces and vintage lunchboxes. He was obsessed with his pets, even going so far as to have his pet rabbit, Cookie, flown from Los Angeles to San Diego for medical care from a specific vet. During his time as Nickelodeon's top showrunner, Schneider kept a blog and a YouTube channel where he shared behind-the-scenes glimpses of life on set. He'd post videos of playful pranks, like when he scared iCarly star Miranda Cosgrove as she walked into a room, or when he tried scaring Victoria Justice.
That's freaking hilarious.
On his blog, he'd share fun facts about the episodes, encouraging fans to comment while reminding them to be nice to each other in the forum. Some, though, found his behavior odd for a middle-aged, powerful showrunner. Former crew members, who asked to remain anonymous for fear of retaliation, recalled Schneider spending time during the workday interacting with young fans online and, after work, texting his child actors about random teenage internet trends. To some, it seemed like he was trying to be part of their world in a way that felt off. Was it research or just a desire to fit in?
Nice things about me? Because I will tase her if necessary.
Uh-oh.
I have the taser. We haven't had to use it in a long time. But
I said lots of nice things.
So I said nice things about you.
That's going to get on TV. That's going to get on TV.
Or was it something even worse? There were even quirky moments on set. Justice's character on Victorious had a locker decorated with pictures of young men, and one of those pictures was of a young Dan Schneider. Schneider dismissed the locker decoration, saying it was likely added by the art department. He also denied ever wanting popularity or recognition as a showrunner. He defended his online interactions with fans, saying he only did so in public forums where everything was transparent. Texting was just how many of the teenage actors preferred to communicate, he explained. I never interacted with actors in any way, texting or otherwise, that should make anyone uncomfortable, he insisted. Some former crew members also said Schneider acted like the King of Nick on Sunset, Nickelodeon's old soundstage. He had his own private bathroom next to the one the rest of the staff used, and on more than one occasion, staff members recalled seeing him pushed from room to room in a rolling chair so he could keep working as he moved. Others described him as a workaholic, prone to shouting, who expected people to work grueling 16 to 20-hour days alongside him and even demanded that writers work weekends at his home. I will always be grateful to Dan for taking a chance on me as a rash young writer fresh out of college and for all I learned over the next 6 years, said Arthur Gradstein, a writer and producer who worked with Schneider across 4 shows. Much of my experience with him was a blast. He could be generous and validating, and it was exciting to be around his talent and passion for creating entertainment. But he was also unreasonably demanding, controlling, belittling, and vindictive, Gradstein added, with a willful disregard for boundaries or workplace appropriateness.
I'm sorry, Miranda, you say that Carly has a catchphrase now?
Yeah.
What is it?
I said it in the last episode and this episode.
What'd you say?
Why are you wearing that towel?
So that's Carly's new catchphrase? What do you think of the new catchphrase?
I think it's brilliant. I think the delivery's perfect.
You do? Yeah. Noah, what do you think of the new catchphrase? You love it? Is it going to sweep the nation? Oh, what's going on back here by the robot? Hold on, let's see what's happening. Let's see what's happening back here. Oh, no!
I haven't got my costume on yet. Are we close to rolling?
Sorry, caught Jerry in a bad moment there.
Because you were saying no, you were already getting up, or were you down already?
Our director, Mr. Steve Hafer, doing the Hafer thing.
Let's just go to the party. No.
Behind the
Get up
scenes.
and cross her.
At
Okay?
iCarly.
Let's go to the party. No. I promised my mom. Okay?
Right.
How much attention does Jeanette need?
I was just trying to avoid
What?
it. If I stand up and I say no, I cross all my doors and start to chat away, and then I look directly at Nathan and they ask questions, and then they have their free, even though my
No, and I think that's fine. Just as long as
Scared you.
Some of Dan Schneider's former colleagues reflected on how tough Hollywood can be. A place where someone like Schneider, a successful and creative showrunner, could have a lot of power and sometimes get away with harsh management styles. But what made Schneider stand out was that he brought this intensity to children's television. However, some of his colleagues, like Yvette Nicole Brown and Tracy Katsky, said they never saw him lose his temper. They admired his obsessive attention to detail, saying that his unwillingness to compromise was what made his shows so successful. Instead of using a basic cell phone prop, Schneider would have his team design a pear phone, a funny take on Apple products, which became iconic in some of his shows. I know some people, they'll say, "He's tough," said Lauren Levine, a former Nickelodeon executive who worked closely with Schneider on Merry Christmas, Drake and Josh. To me, it was never tough for tough's sake. He has a vision that he wants to make happen. It was never ego in my experience, she added. It was always about what serves the show. Schneider denied the stories of him being an overbearing boss. He pointed out that the bathrooms in or near his office were used by others, and the long work hours were just the norm in the industry. As for being pushed around in a chair, he said, it would have only been as a joke. If his emails ever sounded frustrated or impatient, Schneider explained, it was likely because he was still early in his career and focused on making his shows a hit. Over the years, I've grown and matured as a producer and leader, he said. I'm sure I'm better and more gentle at communicating today. After a 3-year break in 2018, Schneider seemed eager to return to television and bring his brand of comedy to new audiences. In a 3-hour interview at the Beverly Hills Hotel, he talked about the state of children's TV and revealed that he was working on an ambitious and very different pilot aimed at a more adult audience. He expected to find out by the end of July whether the show will be greenlit. Along with that, he was also supposed to be developing a pilot for kids and families. And despite his departure from Nickelodeon, Schneider said at the time he held no grudges and wished the best for the iCarly revival. Schneider denied the stories of him being an overbearing boss. He pointed out that the bathrooms in or near his office were used by others, and the long work hours were just the norm in the industry. As for being pushed around in a chair, he said, it would have only been as a joke. If his emails ever sounded frustrated or impatient, Schneider explained, it was likely because he was still early in his career and focused on making his shows a hit. Over the years, I've grown and matured as a producer and leader, he said. I'm sure I'm better and more gentle at communicating today. After a 3-year break in 2018, Schneider seemed eager to return to television and bring his brand of comedy to new audiences. In a 3-hour interview at the Beverly Hills Hotel, he talked about the state of children's TV and revealed that he was working on an ambitious and very different pilot aimed at a more adult audience. He expected to find out by the end of July whether the show will be greenlit. Along with that, he was also supposed to be developing a pilot for kids and families. And despite his departure from Nickelodeon, Schneider said at the time he held no grudges and wished the best for the iCarly revival. Unfortunately though for Dan, his legacy would go up in tatters 3 years later with the release of a documentary by the name of Quiet on the Set. This documentary brought forth many revelations that blew Nickelodeon's dark underbelly wide open. Another disturbing element revolves around Dan Schneider, whose leadership fostered a hostile, sexist environment for those who worked on his shows. These separate but equally concerning issues show a broader pattern of misconduct at the network. Another disturbing element revolves around Dan Schneider, whose leadership fostered a hostile, sexist environment for those who worked on his shows. These separate but equally concerning issues show a broader pattern of misconduct at the network. Each state has its own safeguards, but these policies are inconsistently enforced, leaving many children without adequate protection. Nickelodeon responded to the documentary's claims by stating that they investigate all formal complaints and have adopted numerous safeguards over the years to protect their talent. Schneider, who was fired by Nickelodeon in 2018 after these issues first came to light, has also expressed remorse for some of his behavior. I definitely owe some people a pretty strong apology, Schneider said in an interview with Boog E, a former actor on iCarly. However, Many former child stars and crew members have dismissed these apologies as insincere and empty, criticizing both Nickelodeon and Schneider for failing to fully acknowledge the damage caused.
My relationship to it has and is currently and has been changing, and I'm reprocessing a lot of what the experience was like. You know, I think that the environment needs to be made safer if kids are going to be acting, and I think there should be therapists. I think there should be parents allowed to be wherever they want to be.
Beyond exposing the specific issues on Nickelodeon sets, the series pointed out that these problems go beyond just one show or one studio. It shows that there are not enough protections in place to keep even convicted sexual predators off of kids' TV shows, explains Kate Taylor, a reporter for Business Insider, whose investigation into Nickelodeon helped inspire the documentary. Among the many disturbing revelations are instances of sexual misconduct, harassment, and inappropriate behavior, including some of the troubling storylines that sexualize child actors. One of the most haunting stories revolves around Brian Peck, a dialogue coach on shows like The Amanda Show and All That. Peck was convicted of sexually abusing a minor in 2004, though at the time, the victim's identity remained a secret. For the first time, Quiet on Set reveals that the victim was none other than Nickelodeon actor Drake Bell, who bravely recounts his traumatic experience. Peck was charged with 11 counts of sexual abuse, ultimately being convicted of engaging in a lewd act with a minor and oral copulation with a minor. He was sentenced to 16 months in prison and required to register as a sex offender. Bell, who was about 15 when the abuse took place, describes how Peck used his position on set to get closer to him. Peck, who lived nearer to the studio than Bell's mother, would often drive him to work and even let him stay at his house. The first assault, Bell says, occurred when he was asleep on Peck's couch and woke up to being violated. The abuse was extensive and it got pretty brutal, Bell says in the documentary. He recalls being terrified to speak up, fearful that Peck's position and influence on set might jeopardize his own career. Bell eventually opened up to his mother about the assaults, leading to Peck's arrest. Reflecting on that time, Bell has since shared how the trauma deeply affected his career and personal life, leading to struggles with substance abuse.
You hear scuttlebutt about the business and what you got to watch your kids and this and that, so I was very attentive. All the other parents would be seen and not heard, which I would never interrupt anything, but very rarely sat in the green room. I'd always be offset somewhere where I could always keep my eyes on Drake. And unfortunately, I started seeing Brian start to just hang around Drake too much. And it didn't set well with me. Drake would be in the dressing room or something, and in would pop Brian and just touch Drake. You know, do things that, wait a second, what are you doing? Drake can put that on himself. And the thing is, this is in front of people. Then he'd maybe walk over to Drake and be feeding him some lines or whatever and put his arm around his waist, put his hand up on his shoulder and kind of run it down his arm and things like that. And this would happen routinely. Was just always uncomfortable.
What makes the story even more unsettling is that after Peck's conviction, several prominent Hollywood figures, including actors James Marsden and Alan Thicke, as well as Nickelodeon directors Beth and Rich Carell, wrote character letters in Peck's defense. The Carells have since apologized, but many of these letters painted Peck as a good man and even suggested that Bell's presence had tempted him. In a shocking twist, Peck was later hired to do voiceover work on Disney's The Sweet Life of Zack and Cody after he had already served his prison sentence and registered as a sex offender.
Courthouse was the most unbelievable thing I'd ever seen. His entire side of the courtroom was full. Full. There were definitely some recognizable faces on that side of the room. And my side was me, my mom, and my brother. Brian had been convicted but getting all of this support from a lot of people in the industry, and yeah, I was pretty shocked. My mom got up, she had a statement. I wasn't going to address Brian. There was no reason to. I addressed my statement to everyone in the room. I looked at all of them, and I just said, "How dare you?" And I said, "You will forever have the memory of sitting in this courtroom and defending this person. And I will forever have the memory of the person you're defending violating me and doing unspeakable acts and crimes. And that's what I'll remember."
Reports from multiple women, including 2 writers and a costumer, suggest that the sets were often uncomfortable, with claims of sexual harassment and racism being a major issue. These women have shared stories of sexist behavior that seem to be a regular part of their experiences while working on these productions. According to several accounts, Dan Schneider would reportedly demand that women give him massages and even showed pornography to the staff. 2 of the first female writers hired for The Amanda Show, Christy Stratton and Jenny Kilgen, recalled being asked to split a salary between them. They also described the writer's room as being dominated by men, where they were often the target of inappropriate jokes and uncomfortable situations. In one instance, a writer was asked if she had ever worked in phone sex, and in another, one of the women was told to pitch an idea while pretending to be in the middle of being sodomized. Dan Schneider has denied the allegations of underpaying women writers, but has acknowledged some of his inappropriate behavior. He apologized for the comments he made to writers, stating, "It was wrong that I put anybody in that position." He also admitted that it was inappropriate to ask for massages from staff members. The documentary also talked about how close Schneider was to young girls on set, including his frequent massaging of child actors and the revealing wardrobe he often had them wear for shows. Jeanette McCurdy, a former child actor on the Nickelodeon shows iCarly and Sam and Cat, previously wrote about an anonymous showrunner, nicknamed the Creator, who was thought to be Schneider, engaging in similar acts.
Times when Dan Schneider went too far. As you can see when they're singing Happy Birthday to Miranda Cosgrove, she starts to slowly back away from Dan, who not only forces a hug, but puts his whole arm around her. When Ariana Grande and Liz Gillies were sitting on the floor of the set, Liz helps Ariana pull her skirt down when Dan gets close by, as well as sharing an unsettling look when he starts asking questions. When Ariana was re-recording her lines in the studio, Dan kept interrupting her in a joking manner, but takes it too far.
What did the young shrimp say?
What did the young shrimp say? It sounded like, what did the young shrimp say?
I really can't.
And when Ariana was filming behind-the-scenes clips for Victorious, Dan made her do this.
Check this out!
2 black actors who worked on Schneider's shows shared that they felt tokenized, often being cast in roles that relied on racial stereotypes or plot lines involving racial profiling. Actor Brian Hearn voiced his concerns about potential retaliation after his mother raised complaints about the racism he experienced on set. Several individuals interviewed for a documentary described Schneider as unpredictable and temperamental, often berating and undermining staff members for their work. Following an internal investigation by Nickelodeon, no evidence of sexual misconduct was found, but the investigation did uncover abusive behavior. And so we know Schneider was let go by the network in 2018. One of the biggest issues explored in the documentary is how Dan Schneider repeatedly put kids in situations that were overly sexualized, making them do jokes that crossed a line. For example, there's a scene in Zoe 101 where Jamie Lynn Spears gets a tube of goo squirted all over her face. Alexa Nicholas, who also acted on the show, recalls hearing the boys on set say, "It's a cum shot." Then, there are moments from Victorious that focus on Ariana Grande doing odd things, like massaging a potato, sucking on her toes, and dumping water all over herself. Other jokes, like a girl asking if someone wanted to get hit in the face with a sausage or frequent zoom-ins on kids' feet, raised even more red flags. These moments didn't just make the young actors uncomfortable. They were also seen by millions of kids who watched these shows, exposing them to sexual innuendos that were totally inappropriate. This is a show for kids, so who is sexual innuendo for on a kids show? Ask Scotchy Cole, a former BuzzFeed news culture writer and a consultant for the docuseries. Schneider, in response, said that the company's executives generally approved these scenes, and that he'd be open to removing any offensive ones from streaming versions of the shows. Nickelodeon's path to hiring problematic individuals like Dan Schneider and Brian Peck raises serious questions about how the network allowed such behavior to flourish behind the scenes. As Nickelodeon grew into a major force in children's entertainment, the pressure to produce hit after hit might have led to a culture where red flags were overlooked in favor of success. It's possible that a lack of proper oversight, combined with the immense influence certain producers wielded, created an environment where individuals were shielded from accountability. The hiring of individuals with troubling histories like Brian Peck and the allegations against Schneider highlight deeper issues within the system. While Nickelodeon eventually severed ties with these individuals, it leaves room for reflection on how a network built for kids ended up entangled with these controversies. But this is what was revealed in 4 episodes. What a lot of people don't know is that there was a bonus 5th episode, and this was perhaps the most shocking of all. The 5th in this new episode of the docuseries, we meet Raquel Lee Ballo, who was a regular on season 1 of The Amanda Show, a comedy sketch show that starred Amanda Bynes. Ballo has some pretty fond memories from that time, like making Slurpees on set, signing autographs, and celebrating her 13th birthday. But behind all that excitement, Ballo revealed to Rolling Stone that things weren't as glamorous as they seemed. She talked about how she often felt ignored by the show's creator, Dan Schneider. By the time season 2 rolled around, she was replaced by Josh Peck, who would later star in Drake and Josh. "I knew that I had what it took to shine," Ballo said. "I was ready. I loved it, but it hurt me so much week after week, coming on and really feeling like the black friend. That was it. Oh, we'll put her in a quick little scene. Oh, she'll have a line here. Oh, she'll play the bully here." One skit that stuck with her is called The Literals, where Amanda Bynes spits water in her face over and over. By the 3rd time, Ballo was furious. She was rushed off set by a director and reminded that Bynes was the star of the show. "Here I am, a young black girl behind the stage feeling humiliated," Ballo told Rolling Stone. "Every time she spit in my face, they had to reset my makeup, reset my hair every time because she was taking a gulp of water and spitting it out in my face, and I could not take it anymore." In the 5th episode, during a conversation led by journalist Soledad O'Brien, more former Nickelodeon cast members open up. Giovanni Samuels reveals that Schneider asked her to write a letter of support for him, and Shane Lyons talks about a legal loophole that doesn't require background checks for staff working with children. Through the 5 episodes, this investigation discovery docuseries digs into serious accusations against the network, covering everything from sexual abuse claims to gender discrimination lawsuits, racially insensitive remarks, and inappropriate jokes made on set.
I'm gonna regret this one a lot.
These videos made me so nervous.
No.
Why?
Say your name and game
This better not be on the tube when I get home.
I would not put this on the
See
tube.
this on the tube? I would have lost my mind.
You know what's going to happen if I put this on YouTube. What? You know.
Directors Mary Robertson and Emma Schwartz said they started working on the 5th episode after the trailer sparked a huge response online. The documentary really ignited a conversation, like a movement of people talking about this space, and we wanted to have an opportunity for some of our participants to continue that conversation, Schwartz told Rolling Stone. The episode continued to shine a light on the darker side of the kids' network. O'Brien interviewed Drake and Josh star Drake Bell, who said he was sexually assaulted by a former dialogue coach, Brian Peck, no relation to Josh Peck. All That's Shane Lyons also shared new details about Peck's inappropriate jokes and behavior on set. In more interviews, Ballo and All That's Angelique Bates opened up about the humiliation they felt working on the network and the loopholes that still put child actors at risk. After watching the docuseries with her family, Raquel Lee Ballo realized she hadn't been prepared for what she saw. She hadn't known that the show would reveal sexual assault allegations or hint at sexual innuendos that had been woven into the kids' programming she had once been part of. Reflecting on her time as a child actor and hearing about the accusations against Nickelodeon, She was forced to confront her own painful memories. To think that is what my career was based around, where it started, where it really got its legs, Ballo said. You're telling me that it was rooted in this hypersexualized environment that, as a child, I just didn't understand. In the series, Drake Bell opened up about his friendship with Brian Peck, a dialogue coach on All That and The Amanda Show, and how that relationship had turned abusive. Shane Lyons, a former All That cast member, called Bell's story gut-wrenching. He also discussed his own experience with Peck, recalling inappropriate comments Peck had made to him. Brian follows behind me, and I'm kind of alone in the green room set, and he sits next to me and goes, because previously in the conversation they were talking about blue balls, and I just didn't know what they were. He goes, well, we know what blue balls are, right, Shane? And I said, yeah, like racquetballs. Lyons recounted in the episode. There was also this.
I remember at the time, I think it was about like 2.5 years in, everyone went to Brian's house for a barbecue, and his house was a little off. He had a room that was just dedicated to like vintage toys and comic books, and he'd converted his garage into like a Planet of the Apes shrine. I noticed a painting in the room that stuck out to me because it had nothing to do with Planet of the Apes. It was of a birthday clown holding balloons. And Brian got very excited when I asked him about it. He flipped the thing around, and on the back it said, "To Brian, I hope you enjoy the painting. Best wishes, your friend, John Wayne Gacy." It was a self-portrait of serial killer, John Wayne Gacy. At this point, I'm like 14. I didn't know like the details, but I knew like this guy's a serial killer who like killed a lot of young men and boys. My instinct was like, everyone has to see this. And so like all the parents and the kids come into the room, and then Brian presents the painting again. And Brian actually developed a pen pal relationship with John. He kept like this pile of letters and photos from John Wayne Gacy in his nightstand next to his bed. And he like pulls them out and starts showing them to me. Your instinct is to give someone the benefit of the doubt. If you've known them for that long, even in the face of like this really bad sign. It was one of those like classic failures of group psychology.
Peck's crimes were exposed in 2003 when he was arrested for lewd acts with a child. He pleaded no contest to 2 charges of child sexual abuse the following year and was sentenced to 16 months in prison. Despite these shocking charges, when Peck was sentenced, Drake Bell had been stunned to see so much support for Peck in the courtroom, including letters from celebrities like James Marsden, Taran Killam, and actors from Boy Meets World, Wolf Friedle and Ryder Strong. On Friedle and Strong's podcast Pod Meets World, they later discussed the case. Friedle admitted he regretted standing by Peck, especially after the victim's mother turned to them in court and said, "Look at all the famous people you brought with you, and it doesn't change what you did to my kid." Friedle recalled feeling like he wanted to disappear in that moment. During the 5th episode, Bell said that even though Friedle and Strong had supported Peck at the time, it didn't change how he felt about them. However, he did note that Friedle had missed chances to apologize when they worked together in 2012. Bell later shared on social media that Strong had since reached out, and the two were healing together. Bell also opened up about how the abuse had affected his mental health and contributed to struggles with substance abuse. Over the years, Bell had been convicted of DUIs, declared bankruptcy, and faced other legal troubles, including a charge of attempted child endangerment in 2021. In the episode, Bell talked about how music had helped him cope, and he referenced his latest song, "I Kind of Relate," which touched on his journey through abuse and recovery. I do have to take accountability and responsibility for those things, but it's really eye-opening to get down to what's the root cause. Where's this coming from? Bell said in the 5th installment. Drake Bell mentioned that during the Peck abuse allegations, Dan Schneider, the showrunner for The Amanda Show, Drake and Josh, and Zoe 101 had checked in on him. But for black actors who had worked with Peck, their experiences with Schneider were much different. They often felt intimidated and overlooked by him.
Hi, welcome to my movie. Today my special guest is the executive producer of The Amanda Show, Dan Schneider.
Hi.
Hi, executive producer of the show.
Yes, I'm the executive producer and the head writer.
You actually wrote the words we're saying to each other right now.
Yeah. Yes, I wrote this whole conversation that we're having right here.
Since you're an executive producer.
Give me an IC. Can we have an IC before since you're the executive producer?
IC?
Now, IC now, right. I see now since you're the executive.
Hi, welcome to my koozie. And my special guest is the executive producer of the Amazing Show, Dan Schneider.
Hi.
Now, you're the executive producer of the show?
Yeah, I am the executive producer and I'm the head writer.
You actually wrote the words you're saying to each other right now?
Yes, I actually wrote this whole conversation that we're having right now.
I see. Now, since you're the executive producer of the show, can I have a raise?
No.
After the initial 4-part docuseries was released, Schneider put out a 19-minute apology video. In it, he addressed the gender discrimination complaints, massage requests, and what he called his overambitious behavior. He also touched on diversity, claiming several of his shows had led black actors. However, Brian Hearn and Giovanni Samuels, both from All That, felt his words didn't match their reality on set. The question itself was posed to him about us. It was about us. Hearn recalled in the bonus episode about Schneider's apology. And Schneider, said, "Oh, I jump-started the careers of Keenan and Kel. So, they talked about us being overlooked, and then he overlooked us in his answer." Despite feeling isolated on Nickelodeon, Samuels revealed in the bonus episode that Schneider called her just a week before the documentary was released, asking for a quote of support. She told Rolling Stone that Schneider's presence had terrified her when she worked for him. "I was intimidated because I understood that Dan had the power to make anybody a star," Samuels shared with Rolling Stone at the time. "I wanted to make sure I did my job so that he would not only see me, give me that validation, but push my career forward." Angelique Bates, the first black female cast member on All That, had been open about her negative experiences for over a decade. Bates, who starred in 2 seasons of the show, recalled one particular skit rehearsal where things went off script. A cast member had spit milk in her face. When she threw her milk back at him in retaliation, Bates said Schneider lost it. "Dan completely blew up and lost it," Bates remembered, speaking to Rolling Stone. "All the mics were still on because we were recording. They hadn't turned anything off." With that being said, because the mics were on, that means all the intercoms that were in the dressing rooms, in the offices on every floor of Nickelodeon Studios, could access the audio. If you were in there, you heard it. Bates said that Schneider had been forced to apologize and later showered her with birthday gifts. Bates, however, declined multiple interview requests from the quiet on-set producers, according to directors Mary Robertson and Emma Schwartz.
Katrina thought it would be hilarious, and she spit the milk directly in my face. So when she spit the milk directly in my face, and she's actually admitted this, and you know, she ended up admitting it, and you know, she's apologized, and she's apologized several times, and she's, you know, she's actually one of the very few that's been there, even when I ended up homeless, and she's helped my children, like all kinds of stuff. So she's definitely tried to redeem herself. But when that happened, when she spit the milk in my face, you know, what happens when someone spits in your face? Immediately, I reacted because it was like whoosh, and then I was just like that, and I immediately threw it in her face, and Dan flew off the handle. Completely flew off the handle, was yelling at me, just, I can't even begin to tell you what he was saying. I don't even remember, but he was yelling at the top of his lungs. The mic was still on. So if you were in the dressing room, if you were on any of the floors, if you were in the office, you heard it because it was intercoms throughout the whole Nickelodeon studio.
Nickelodeon has had its fair share of controversies over the years, and while Dan Schneider's accusations grabbed headlines, they weren't the only dark clouds looming over the network. Nickelodeon, the home of beloved shows like SpongeBob SquarePants, has faced some issues that a lot of people might not know about. And as strange as it sounds, even SpongeBob has had his moments in the spotlight for all the wrong reasons. Other controversies: SpongeBob SquarePants, created by marine science educator Steven Hillenburg, made its debut in 1999 and quickly became a hit. It's one of the longest-running American animated series, with over a dozen seasons and more to come. The show follows SpongeBob, a cheerful sea sponge that looks like a kitchen sponge, as he goes on wild adventures with his pals Patrick Star, Sandy Cheeks, Squidward Tentacles, and Mr. Krabs. Despite being around for so long, some say the show's quality has dipped, but it's still super popular with both kids and adults. Now, having been on air for so long, it was bound to stir up some controversy. One of the strangest ones came in 2009 when Burger King released a commercial for their kids' meal featuring SpongeBob SquarePants toys. So far, nothing unusual, right? Except this commercial was a bit. It was a parody of Sir Mix-a-Lot's famous song, Baby Got Back, but with the focus on square butts. Yeah, you read that right. The king himself was singing about square butts, surrounded by dancers in SpongeBob costumes with square butts.
I like square butts and I cannot lie. Squid and Sea Star can't deny. When a sponge walks in, 4 corners in his pants like he got phone book implants, the crowd shouts. All the ladies stare. Dang, those pants are square. Swinging through the seaweed tangles is a butt with sharp right angles. Now SpongeBob, I wanna get with ya, cause you're making me richer. I know why do we keep it grungy, cause everybody knows that he's so spongy. Oh, rumpa sponge skin, you dance but your hips don't bend. So groove it and move it. If you got caboose, then prove it. SpongeBob is dancing and Squidward is glancing. He's hating, wet. Got SpongeBob running his set. I'm tired of all these chairs. They don't accommodate these squares. Take the average box run and tell him that you gotta have square back. Mr. Krabs,
Yeah.
Patrick,
Yeah.
has SpongeBob got the butt?
Oh,
Tell him
yeah.
to shake it,
Shake it.
shake it,
Shake it.
shake that cubicle butt. SpongeBob got back. Nah, dude, I said cubicle, not bootyful. Don't trip. Yeah, baby. When it comes to sea life, curves ain't got nothing to do with Bob's selection. 2 by 2 by 2 square trousers, working that black belt, looking like dotted lines. That's how SpongeBob like to rock them threads, baby. A word to the deep sea sponges that wanna get wet and watch SpongeBob kick it. I gotta be straight when I say you gotta scrub till the break of dawn. Bob got it going on, been known to rock him a thong. Them round butts won't admit it, but they'd wear that gear if they could fit it. You can draw his body on paper, his waistline really don't taper. Your girlfriend wants to squeeze him, wanna push his pores and tease him, but SpongeBob ain't gonna have too much of that squeezing. You other sponges don't want none unless you rock square buns. To the new sponges in the magazines, you ain't it, Miss Thing. We rock them cubes, gals and dudes. I put it down at the Goo Lagoon. Some other box butts get jealous at the moves that come from square fellas. See Bob and they wanna get 'em, but Sandy Cheek, she won't let 'em. If you happen to wander on land and you wanna be a square butt fan, just drive the crew by the Burger King and give that sponge a ring. SpongeBob got back. Yeah.
Not surprisingly, this didn't go over well with some people. The campaign for a commercial-free childhood called out the ad for being sexist and way too inappropriate, considering SpongeBob's target audience was kids. Burger King tried to explain it away by saying the ad was aimed at parents, but that didn't make much sense since they were promoting a kid's meal with a children's cartoon character. The ad quickly became infamous, and although it's still floating around the internet, people now tend to laugh at it rather than get outraged. After all, stranger things have happened since then, even within the SpongeBob universe. And the worst part is, SpongeBob wasn't the only show to hit some bumps. Figure it out. A game show that aired on Nickelodeon from 1997 to 1999 and briefly came back in 2012, also had its controversial moments. Milk Boy, hosted by Summer Sanders in its original run, the show was shot at Nickelodeon Studios in Orlando, Florida. Kids with secret talents would come on the show, and a panel of celebrities, usually actors from other Nickelodeon shows, would try to guess the talent by asking yes or no questions. If the celebrity panelists got slimed, someone from the audience would win a prize. One episode in particular stands out not for its sliming antics, but for the contestants' rather unusual talent. In Season 2, Episode 40, a teenager named Anthony from New Hampshire revealed his secret talent. He could snort milk through his nose and squirt it out of his eyes. Yup, you heard that right. Unsurprisingly, the celebrity panel couldn't guess this bizarre skill, and Anthony won the grand prize, a trip back to Universal Studios. However, after the episode aired in April 1998, it was pulled from reruns. Apparently, a concerned parent contacted Nickelodeon to complain after their child tried to imitate Anthony's trick. It was strange considering that the show had featured other equally gross talents before, including one where a dog drank milk out of a girl's mouth. A disclaimer was even shown during Anthony's episode warning viewers not to try this at home, But that didn't seem to be enough. Despite being pulled, the episode hasn't disappeared completely. Danny Tamborelli, one of the celebrity panelists, confirmed its existence during a Reddit AMA, saying, "I remember that talent and it was gross." Though the episode has never been officially re-aired, it remains a topic of discussion on various online forums. Clips from the episode have even surfaced in compilation videos, keeping its strange legacy alive on the internet. Chris Savino controversy. Chris Savino was a big name in the world of animation, especially in the 90s. He worked on popular Nickelodeon shows like The Ren and Stimpy Show, Rocko's Modern Life, and Angry Beavers. After spending years at different studios, he created The Loud House for Nickelodeon in 2016, which quickly became the most watched kids cartoon on TV. But in 2017, when The Loud House was at its peak, everything came crashing down. Cartoon Brew reported that Savino had been accused by a dozen women at Nickelodeon of inappropriate behavior and harassment. It turned out that this behavior had been going on for at least a decade. One professional animator, who chose to stay anonymous, wrote a letter describing how Savino offered her a job in exchange for inappropriate things with him. Because of this, she decided not to take a job at Nickelodeon at all. Savino addressed the accusations in a now-deleted Facebook post, saying he was deeply sorry and ashamed. He admitted that his actions had created an unacceptable environment.
So that was it. I kept my mouth shut for that time. I didn't want it to seem like I was responding to what was being said in kind of a way that I was making excuses. I took 100% of the responsibility to the situation and took it all on myself, regardless of any of the lies that were being said. And how would you say it was like a group of people working in concert together to just destroy me and my career. And it worked. It worked quite well.
As a result, he was fired from Nickelodeon and suspended from the Animation Guild for a year. Even without him, The Loud House kept going and remained successful, with a 6th season and even a Netflix movie in the works. Then there was John Kricfalusi, the creator of The Ren and Stimpy Show. He was involved in something even darker. In 2018, 2 women, Robin Bird and Katie Rice, came forward and accused Kricfalusi of predatory behavior. Back in the 90s, both were aspiring animators and fans of his work when they were still teenagers. Bird said she first reached out to Kricfalusi when she was 13. He was 39 at the time. Their communication turned into something much worse, and when she was 16, they started a sexual relationship. Kricfalusi manipulated her into thinking it was a mentorship, but it was clear he had other intentions. Bird later revealed that he took inappropriate photos of her and shared them without her consent. He ruined a good bit of my childhood and my early adulthood, gave me PTSD, and forced me to change careers, she told BuzzFeed. Rice had a similar story. She started writing to Kricfalusi when she was a teenager and eventually worked with him. While they didn't have a sexual relationship, she said Kricfalusi tried to cross that line more than once.
Hi. Hey, this is Katie Rice. She is one of the young artists I was telling you about who sought me out because she grew up watching Ren and Stimpy, right? Mm-hmm. So, Ren and Stimpy has a lot of specialists on it. Like we have people who draw manly, we have people who draw sensitive, we have people who draw sexy girls. Katie is the princess of sexy girl artists. Now I got to tell you a little history because all through the 80s, when I was working at Hanna-Barbera and Filmation and all these studios, I always wanted to draw sexy girls into the cartoons. But since the networks were all run by dykes, they wouldn't let you because they thought it was offensive to women to draw girls cute, like Katie here. So it frustrated me and all the other artists that like to draw sexy girls. So when Ren and Stimpy came along, I managed to get a couple of scenes, like in Powder Toast Man.
I became a better artist by working for him, Rice admitted. I'm not grateful for it. I wish I hadn't. I wish I were a worse artist now and I didn't have all this bull's **** to deal with. By the time Bird and Rice shared their stories, Kricfalusi had long been gone from Nickelodeon, so the network didn't comment on the allegations. However, the whole thing still cast a shadow over Nickelodeon's past. In 1992, Nickelodeon had fired Kricfalusi from the Ren and Stimpy Show, allegedly because production was moving too slowly. But Kricfalusi later claimed that wasn't true, saying the network had simply stopped paying him. Whatever happened, his legacy at Nickelodeon took a major hit with the 2018 allegations. Kricfalusi's lawyer responded to BuzzFeed by admitting that Kricfalusi had a 16-year-old girlfriend 25 years ago, but blamed it on his mental health issues and excessive drinking during the 90s. The lawyer claimed Kricfalusi had worked hard on his mental health and had been stable for the past decade. Then in the 2020 documentary Happy, Happy, Joy, Joy, The Ren and Stimpy Story, Kricfalusi addressed the accusations directly, saying he felt shame and guilt after the BuzzFeed article and that it made him feel like the lowest creature on earth. He apologized and said that if he had the chance, he would tell Bird that he recognized what he had done wrong. He also claimed, perhaps most disturbingly, that he had always had what, ultimately from his point of view, were her best interests at heart. Jeanette McCurdy was once one of Nickelodeon's brightest young stars, but in 2022, she revealed some shocking truths about her time with the network in her autobiography, I'm Glad My Mom Died. In an interview with the New York Times around the book's release, she shared, "My whole childhood and adolescence were very exploited. It still gives my nervous system a reaction to say it." In her memoir, McCurdy talks about a figure she refers to as the creator, who many believe is a reference to Dan Schneider, the powerhouse behind iCarly. McCurdy recalled one uncomfortable experience where she had to reshoot her first on-screen kiss, also her first kiss in real life several times. She also claimed that this producer made inappropriate advances and gaslight her during their private conversations. Leonardo goes off the rails in another scandal. Jason Biggs found himself in hot water after being cast as the voice of Leonardo in Nickelodeon's 2012 reboot of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Biggs, known for his sometimes controversial humor, sent out a series of inappropriate tweets right after Nickelodeon encouraged fans to follow his account. The network quickly apologized, saying, "Nickelodeon does not support or condone the use of graphic or vulgar language on any of our platforms. It was our mistake to link from our Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Twitter feed to Jason's personal Twitter account, and we quickly corrected our error." They also warned Biggs to be more careful with what he posted. By 2014, Biggs was replaced by Seth Green for season 4 of the series. Nickelodeon didn't say much about the reason for his exit, but in a 2018 appearance on Dax Shepard's Armchair Expert podcast, Biggs admitted that the tweets got him fired. He explained that even after warnings from the network, he doubled down and posted more inappropriate tweets, which led to ongoing backlash. Biggs shared that he was struggling with addiction at the time, and the whole situation was a huge wake-up call for him. Can't find Dora Caitlin Sanchez, who voiced Dora in Dora the Explorer for 2 years, was another young star to face issues with Nickelodeon. When she was 14, the network fired her because her voice had changed due to puberty.
Congratulations on the nomination.
Thank you so much.
I know that you are the voice of Dora the Explorer. What do you do to protect your voice from, daily wear and tear?
Drink a lot of water. That's the main thing. Drink a lot of water. Don't stretch your vocal cords. Don't yell too much. And yeah, basically those are the rules I try to stick with when I'm recording Dora.
Do you think you can give us a little taste of Dora?
Oh, of course. Hi, I'm Dora. Vámonos, let's go. Do you want to go on an adventure with me? Excelente.
That was so surreal to see you do that in person. Do you have any other exciting plans in the future?
No, I'm just really happy being Dora right now. We're all really excited for Dora's 10-year anniversary and the new special that's airing tonight at 8 o'clock on Nickelodeon, Dora's Big Birthday Adventure, and yeah, I'm really excited.
Great. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Nice talking to you.
Not long after, Sanchez and her family filed a $10 million lawsuit against Nickelodeon, MTV Networks, and Viacom, claiming that Nickelodeon had broken promises and that her contract, which had been rushed, was never properly submitted to court for approval, something required when dealing with minors. Nickelodeon denied these claims, saying that Sanchez's contract had been extensively negotiated through her agent and was in full compliance with her union. They even stated they had offered Sanchez other work with the network. According to The Hollywood Reporter, Sanchez's lawyer threatened to expose humiliating secrets about Nickelodeon if the network didn't settle the lawsuit. In the end, the case was settled privately. However, 2 years later, Sanchez and her family tried to revoke the settlement, which included a $500,000 payment and royalties on future merchandise. They claimed they were misled by their lawyer, but the court denied their appeal. Amanda Bynes, another former Nickelodeon star, had her own struggles after her time with the network ended. Known for her work on The Amanda Show, Bynes made headlines for a series of legal issues in 2012, including DUIs and hit and runs. Things took a turn for the worse in 2013 when she was hospitalized for mental evaluation after setting a small fire in an L neighborhood. After disappearing from the public eye for a few years, Bynes opened up in 2018, telling Paper magazine that her erratic behavior was caused by drug use. While Nickelodeon's audience isn't as large as it was 20 years ago, the network continues to produce content for kids. In 2024, to celebrate SpongeBob SquarePants' 25th anniversary, Nickelodeon threw the 37th Annual Kids' Choice Awards on July 13th. What made this event extra special was that SpongeBob and Patrick Star co-hosted it. The award show also had cool interactive features and brought in about 1.7 million viewers with a peak of 2.4 million. Earlier in 2024, Nickelodeon brought back a fan favorite, Nick News, for its 4th season, premiering on February 7th. This show is known for covering current events and important social issues in a way that kids can understand. It's even won a bunch of Emmy Awards and other big honors over the years. On the comedy side, Nickelodeon added Modern Family to its nightly schedule on September 9th, 2024. This award-winning sitcom now plays every day on Nick at Night. It's also due to how kids watch TV today. With streaming platforms like Netflix, Disney Plus, and Paramount Plus, kids don't need to wait for their favorite shows to air after school. They can stream and binge-watch whatever they want, whenever they want. This shift in how entertainment is consumed means Nickelodeon will never have the huge audiences it once did. But as long as it keeps making content for kids, it will still have a place in the entertainment world. Going forward, Hollywood needs to be more careful about how children's shows are produced and how young stars are treated on set.